welcome back to 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in Asia, where the president of South Korea has been drumming up fears of a communist takeover after his recent impeachment. From BBC, quote, "This is a war between communism and democracy," said one office worker in his 40s who had slipped out of work to join the protest at the court. Another man in his 30s adamantly argued the president had to be returned to office as soon as possible. Quote, "He's going to arrest all the North Korean spies," he said. Such threats were once very real. During the 1960s and 70s, spies would regularly attempt to infiltrate the government, end quote. Next, we go to Australia, where the nation has faced potential abductions of its own citizens. From the AP, quote, "An Australian spy agency had discovered 3 foreign governments plotting to physically harm people living in Australia," a security boss said on Wednesday. Mike Burgess, Director General of the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, the nation's main domestic spy agency known as ASIO, did not name the countries in his latest annual address outlining threats to the country. One government attempted to trick a human rights advocate into traveling from Australia to a third country where plotters planned to injure or kill their target. ASO intervened to prevent the travel, end quote. This week in France, police have been dumbfounded by the curious case of a flipped van. From BBC, quote, "Police in Western France are investigating how a camper van ended up in an unusual position by the side of the road. Officers were shocked to find the abandoned vehicle with a bonnet in a ditch and the back against an overhead power line near the city of Saint-Malo on Saturday. On the day of the accident, the driver of the tow truck that was called in to remove the camper van told the ICI news website, quote, "I've never seen anything like this in my 22-year career." The BBC has approached St. Malo's prosecutor's office for comment, end quote. Next, we travel to Brazil, where former President Bolsonaro is now under investigation. From the AP, quote, "Prosecutor General Paulo Gento on Tuesday charged Bolsonaro with devising a multi-pronged scheme to remain in power despite his loss to current President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, including an alleged plan to poison Lula and shoot dead Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, a foe of the former president. Quote, "Every authoritarian regime in its lust for power needs to manufacture internal enemies to justify persecutions, censorship, and arbitrary arrests," Bolsonaro said. He compared his legal woes with problems faced by opposition leaders in Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, all led by left-leaning leaders, end quote. Across the Atlantic in Nigeria, the nation is set to receive some of its prized historical artifacts back from European nations. From BBC, quote, "The Netherlands says it will return more than 100 Benton bronzes that British troops looted from Nigeria in the late 19th century, and which ended up in a Dutch museum. Thousands of these culturally significant sculptures and carvings were stolen during the violent destruction of Benin City in modern-day Nigeria's Edo state in 1897. Nigeria said it plans to open the Edo Museum of Western African Art in Benin City in 2026, designed by the British Ghanaian architect Sir David Adoye, to house the largest collection of Benin bronzes ever assembled, end quote. And we finish today in North America, where Panama is attempting to deal with deportees sent to its shores from the United States. From the AP, quote, "Panama transferred about 1/3 of the deportees from various nations it had received from the United States to a camp in its Darien province Wednesday, an area that became the main thoroughfare for migrants traveling from South America to the U.S. border in recent years," security officers said late Wednesday. The migrants sent to Darien had refused to voluntarily be repatriated to their countries and will be held there until third countries can be found to take them, end quote. There have also been accusations that these members of the camp have actually been properly detained, and authorities in Panama have actually pushed back against those claims. With that said, if you want to check out this episode, you want to read any of the stories from them, all of them are in the link below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the link to the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links to both 6 and 6, so this international segment you're listening to now, and also the normal US-based, US-focused podcast that comes out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the same YouTube channel, same RSS feed. So if you want to go over there, follow that account. The links will bring you directly to it at 12 p.m. Or if the posting's a little bit later, depending on the importance of the episode, that sort of thing. So with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.